That sounds fun. That sounds fun.
Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of That Sounds Fun. I'm your host, Annie F. Downs. I'm so happy to be here with you today, and so is our guest. Y'all are ready for Bob Goff. But before we dive into that conversation, I want to tell you about one of our incredible sponsors. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. I don't love being cold, so during these winter months, I'm not mad about getting cozy at home, making some tea, watching some Great American Family Christmas movies. It just brings me a lot of comfort. What's your favorite way to get cozy and comfy when it's cold outside? Therapy may have not have been at the top of your list, but it is a great way to bring yourself some comfort that will help you for a long time, even when the seasons change. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, so you also don't have to leave your cozy spot. And it's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. Y'all know we love a quiz. And you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Today on the show, I get to talk with the king of whimsy himself, your other favorite Enneagram 7, Bob Goff. This is his third time back to That Sounds Fun, and he's always a good friend to us and a really wise voice that we can learn from. His new book, Catching Whimsy, is a 365-day devotional challenging us to intentionally live a life full of kindness and wonder, and, of course, some whimsy too. He's our expert on figuring out how to do that as well. So I was so happy to get to chat with him. Here's my conversation with our friend, Bob Goff.
That sounds fun.
Okay, Bob Goff, welcome back to That Sounds Fun.
Thank you. It's good to see you. And it's been a while. We used to meet each other in airports. You'd be zigging, I'd be zagging, and we'd get to do a high five real quick. So this is fun. Good to see you.
I know. It does feel like it has been a while. I have a new book coming out in 2 years or something. You know how it is. I just turned it in last week. But as has happened for about the last 4 books, there's a Bob Goff story of where we ran into each other and you... Because your new book is about curiosity, and we were at Cross Point, and I was telling you about a relationship, and you said, why don't you just get curious and ask him what's going on? And it really changed things in a good way for me.
Yeah. Isn't that the power of curiosity? If you see people that appear older than their chronological age, I think sometimes they just stop being curious and it just kind of ages you. But yet you see people that are well along, kind of long in the tooth, but they've got this twinkle in their eye because they're just curious about what's going on. Their head's on a swivel. They want to know what's going on around them. They're curious about what's going on inside them. They're curious about what's going on inside of other people.
I think there's this language around curiosity about okay, I'm going to be curious about why the leaves change the colors that they do. And that is just there's a curiosity about the world. But then what you have invited me to and what you're doing in Catching Whimsy is this curiosity that requires a little bit of vulnerability, Bob. Like when you said to me, why don't you just call him and get curious about what y'all are doing? That was really scary to me. But that curiosity feels a little different. Will you talk about the vulnerability sometimes that's required from this? Because that's what you were teaching me.
Yeah, I think I've described it a couple times as whimsy is this idea that people, misread as, confetti and glitter and unicorns. But it's kind of like showing up. And the way to get to whimsy is going to be through authenticity. That is going to be the door that you walk through to get there. And it's not just somebody over-caffeinated and Red Bulled out. That this whimsy is going to be because you're genuinely curious about why does that happen? What is this? How are we going to get there? I got back a week and a half or 2 weeks ago from Uganda, and we've got all these kids in a school, and we got this idea that we're going to start a university. Now, my worst subject in school was school, but I just thought we're just going to start. And so some really intelligent people, Jody Luke and others, are putting this thing together. And then when I was there for graduation, 1,500 kids.
It was amazing. I watched it online. It was beautiful.
And here was the deal. I was there to get giraffes because
Oh.
I want giraffes at the school. You have a kid living in a hut in northern Uganda. They're never going to go to a game park.
Yeah.
And yet giraffes used to be all around. So we went to the first lady and we're not talking universities, we're talking giraffes. And she runs across the way to get her husband, the president, and brings it back. You've got to hear this. This is what whimsy will do. This is what you bring into the room. When you walk into the room, like it just lights up. And it's not just a bunch of unbridled joy. I would call it strategic whimsy, right?
Oh,
You
wow.
know why you're doing what you're doing, and it's for a worthwhile goal. Like it's something that isn't just going to work, it's going to last.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it. That version of curiosity and whimsy makes the risk worth it. Because you're like self isn't at risk. Like my identity was never at risk. What was at risk was, am I going to get rejected? Am I going to get received? And what you are teaching us is like, yeah, but that's a worthy journey.
Yes, and we got to figure out the origin story. If you felt rejection, if you've gone through Mike Foster's like 7 primal
Yeah.
questions, like mine is like, am I wanted? And so
Mine too, Bob.
I can
you
trace
know that's
that back.
mine too.
Yeah, me and you, girl. That's
All
why
the
we
time,
like
all the time.
simpatico. Yeah, which is the person you want speaking somewhere because they will never go a minute long because they just wouldn't assume anybody wants them to be there a minute longer. So if your question is, am I wanted? Then what you want to do is make people feel wanted.
Yeah.
And so it just leads you in all these wonderful, whimsical ways to people. People like you and I tend to want to ask people, not just, how are you? Because then you'll get a polite, I'm fine, how are you? And then we'll say, I'm fine as well. And that's how we roll in North America. It's just being polite. But what if we changed it up and say, what's it feel like to be you right now? And then while you're thinking about that, let me tell you what it feels like to be me. About 100% anticipation and about 80% insecurity.
Wow.
And sometimes the person up in front, people perceive that they're confident and exude all that. But this is really a bunch of am I wanted on steroids, that we've learned to cope with our insecurity through enthusiasm and all. It's not faking it. We're genuinely enthusiastic. Wouldn't you say you're just genuinely?
Oh, yeah. I'm built this way on top of the rest of it. Yeah.
On top of the rubble of
Right.
like all the insecurities and questions about am I wanted and all that. And yet we're like striving towards this perspective. So if we could start approaching conversation to say, hey, what's it feel like to be you right now? Or if you have a great experience, people leave this camp we have all the time. And
Yeah.
before they leave, I was just talking to a group last night. When people, when you arrive home, people are going to say, how was your time? And I don't want you to say good, fine, great, wonderful, muffins were great. What I want you to say is, how much time do you have?
Wow.
Because if they're just being polite, they'll say, oh yeah, I got to go. But to say, I'm not going to reduce beautiful things into snapshots to fit a really brief conversation. I want to leave the beautiful thing. And that's going to take a little bit more introspection. Like beneath the hood of all of our joy and enthusiasm, there's a really highly contemplative people that are just, do you get really sad? I get really sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet people know you and I, like we're the balloon, brother, sister, twins.
Right.
And yet we get in front of people and you can feel a little disingenuous because you're feeling really like feeling all these emotions at the time. And yet you're the person, it's like the clown that shows up at the birthday party to make animal balloons and feel like, what do I do with this? Where do I have? And authenticity is the pathway to whimsy. To say, can I just get real with you guys for just a second here?
Yeah.
I'm just feeling, I don't want to over-index this, but I'm just feeling really conflicted. And on the one hand, and then on the other hand, and then people will just draw in and they're going to, instead of being caricatures of who and I are, we can actually be who you and I are. And I think that's where people experience faith and freedom and acceptance and all that, because they go like, oh my gosh, she's not just Annie, everything goes great, but that Annie who's deeply feels the things and the people around her. And it's not just Bob the balloon guy.
Yeah. How does whimsy look like God? How does whimsy a part of our faith life?
I would say endlessly creative. Like this idea, I think started, I just wanted to have a zoo. Evidently, you're supposed to call it a habitat, not a zoo. I'm like, whatever. So I just wanted to find an animal that didn't bite people and be hard to lose. So I'm like, giraffes, obviously. So I think the way that it looks like is having a big purposeful idea, that you have a lasting thing. You can go down the list: hungry people, thirsty people, sick, strange, naked, people in jail, widows and orphans. The list doesn't get a lot longer than that, but that's a good starter kit. And so then it's to not just agree with Jesus if faith guides your steps, but to say, so how am I going to engage that? And so, I've been teaching at San Quentin now for the longest time.
Yes.
And you've got to come with me.
I know. Do you know, I've just started going to the Tennessee Prison for Women, and I love it. It is, I've got to come out and go with you.
There's something about these guys haven't learned a thing from me, but I learn a ton every time. I asked, we're coming up on Christmas, and it was a year ago. I asked the warden, can I wear a Santa uniform, like a costume? And he's like, we don't do that here. Like, we're just kind of, you're either dressed in blue or you're a visitor, but not a little of both. And I guess they don't want you to bring hacksaws and other things in.
Yeah, fair.
So I just thought, I'm just going to show up in a Santa uniform. So I did. There's a flurry of calls that got made. And first it was like, no, but then yes. And so now I'm sitting in the yard, and there's this guy that's in my class. He's a Manson family member, and he sits in my lap. And he said, I've never sat in Santa's lap before. And I said, well, I've never had a serial killer sitting in my lap before. So this is a first for both of us. And I asked him, like, what do you want? And he said, I thought he'd say he wanted an alibi, but what he said is, I want a phone call on Christmas morning. And so it started this beautiful chain reaction a couple weeks later, where we got on the phone, and then another guy and another guy and another guy and another guy. I just felt like because I started showing up to some of these targets, I started hanging a bullseye on some of the hungry, thirsty, sick, strange, naked, jail, widows, orphans. They find what is going to be lasting, hang a target on it, and then move towards it. Because I think a lot of people agree, and I'm included in that large circle, we agree about things about faith, but we don't do the things about faith. And somehow in our mind, when we agree, when we say it enough, we think we've done it. Oh, we've got a little hill. I don't know. Are you doing that walking thing around, stay fit and all that? We've got a little hill behind the house. I call it Mount Lucinda. It's a little hill, but I make it sound like it's bigger than it is. And so I'm up good for about 3 times up and back, and then I'm tuckered out. But I told Marie I'm going to go up that thing 5 times next weekend. And on Monday, I told her I'm going up that thing 5 times next week. And I said the same thing on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I told her on Friday, I'm going up that thing 5 times tomorrow. And on Saturday morning, I got my tennis shoes up, did my trip, came back, and Marie said, how was the walk? And I said, I went up that thing 5 times. And then I thought about it, and I said, I'd only gone up 3 times, but I told myself all week long I was going up 5 times. I thought I'd done it. Like, I wasn't trying to fib. I wasn't trying to overstate it. I just had been saying that, parroting it. Then so if faith guides your steps, and you've been parroting these things like, I'm going to love my enemy, and I'm going to all that. And it's easy until you have an enemy. Until you feel misunderstood. Oh, forget it. Forget like a bachelor's degree in misunderstanding. Let's go PhD. When you feel betrayed. Like when someone has betrayed your friendship. Like, so what do you do then? Like, that's when it gets real. And that doesn't mean to fall down before them and to say, how can I, whatever, but to maybe do the courageous work of saying, here's a path back towards reconciliation. If you'd like to take it. I'm not saying I'm the only guy. If you have a better way to get there, I'm all ears. But to say, to start doing some of these things instead of just saying them. And somebody might respond by saying, hey, this Matthew 18, that's just Bible shaming. And that is just their lived experience coming out in a way that I don't find, I find off-putting, but it's not about how we're reacting. We just got to stop ricocheting off of each other and say, how do we get from here to there? If there's a path forward, and if that's not a path to take now, maybe we can take it later.
My favorite woman at the prison will never leave the prison. She will be there forever. And the other thing about that scripture, Bob, is being up close to any of those people groups change how you think about those people groups. So if you
Isn't
get
that
up close to
true?
the hungry and the thirsty and the prisoner and the naked and the sick, my assumptions about a woman in prison for the rest of her life is very different now that I'm friends with one. And I'm so changed by every time I show up, Bob, she walks up and says, my watch beeps at 9, 12, and 3 o'clock, and I pray for you by name.
Wowzers.
And it's just like
Oh, I
changed
love
my
hearing
life
that.
to be
Yeah.
up close to someone that is one of the people Jesus listed.
Yeah, I remember in college, I moved to San Diego State, Harvard of the West, to go surfing mostly down here. And there's like San Diego State has like just 60,000 surfers that go there. And a big storm blew into Southern California. And I went out to this place called Sunset Cliffs, and there's no beach. It's just cliffs. And then when the wave comes up, you jump off the cliff and kind of ride the wave down. And so I caught one wave very briefly and then got caught inside, and all the waves. Think of the headwinds
wow.
that your friends in prison have encountered. And these waves are just pushing me closer and closer to the cliff. And then I finally, like, the board breaks into pieces. I hit the cliff and I was really in trouble. And there was a guy walking along, Annie, at the top of the cliff. And he saw what was going on and that I was really in trouble. And I'm so grateful he didn't shout down to me, John 3:16, it'll change your life. He got in the water with me.
Oh, wow.
And I'm here because he didn't just shout stuff at me. He got in the water with me at my point of deepest need. And I guess I just want to think about that for people who are hurting, sometimes people a little prickly or off-putting or have wounded you. Can we get into the water with them? And it takes a level of commitment that's more than just observation. It's more than agreeing. I agree, Bob's in trouble. Like, get in the water. And it takes an unusual amount of courage, but I think we have a people, like a group of people that we know who are safe. And you don't need a Bible verse for everything, but Acts 4:13, they saw the courage of Peter and John, and they knew they'd been with Jesus.
Yes.
So find those people
Ordinary
you can
men.
spot. Yes.
Yeah.
Just the unschooled, ordinary, like the dude in the prison.
That's me.
And then
That's me.
find these people. You know, if you make a phone call on a burner phone, it's like 2 years added to your sentence.
No.
And 2 years automatic. And I'm not going to say I got a phone call or two, but there's some people who are willing to take big consequences to be my friend. And I think I want to find that, not just the fair weather friend, but people that when you've really been in the soup, that they have sought you out. And they've done whatever it takes to get in the water with you. Man, I want to not just be on the receiving end of that. I want to be on the delivery end of that. And maybe if somebody's listening, somebody came to mind who's been a little prickly. It's been a little off-putting. It got super weird, super fast. And to say, is there a path back to one another?
That sounds fun.
Hey friends, just interrupting this conversation to tell you about one of our new incredible partners, Aura Frames. Okay, let's be honest. What most people really want for this holiday season is to see their favorite people more often. Me too. That's why this year, one of the best gifts you can give, besides like plane tickets, is an Aura digital picture frame. Okay, when I tell you how much my parents love this, it was named the #1 digital photo frame by Wirecutter. Aura frames are incredibly smart, easy to use. I have one. My parents have one. They allow you to upload unlimited photos and videos directly from your phone to the frame. Plus, you can order the frame online and preload it with photos and videos using the Aura app, so it is ready to go right out of the box. Mine is mostly pictures of my nephew Sam, but I also have some people in mind that I want to gift it to. I'm telling you, when my parents opened it at Christmas and it was already loaded, we gave it to them last year. I mean, thrilled. Absolutely thrilled. Save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com and you'll get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames by using the promo code FUN at checkout. That's AURA frames.com and the promo code is FUN. This deal is exclusively for our friends, so get yours now in time for the holidays. Terms and conditions apply. Remember, that link and pretty much every other link you could ever hope for are in the show notes below, or we'll send it straight to you Friday in the AFD Week in Review, which we hope is your favorite email of the week. If you are not getting that, make sure you sign up for that in the show notes below as well. And one more incredible partner I get to tell you about, Hiya Health. If you're trying to think of stocking stuffers for your kids that aren't full of sugar, grab a bottle of Hiya Health. Hiya Health has created the pediatrician-approved chewable vitamin that is made with zero sugar and zero gummy junk. A lot of my mini BFFs love them. It is like a treat to the kids, but it's actually good for them. Hiya is designed for kids 2 and up and sent straight to your door, so that's one less thing you need to think about when you're going out and shopping. The cute glass bottles they come in are so great, but even better, they are reusable, and your kids get to decorate them with stickers. And currently, their bottles are available in Barbie pink, which is adorable, and it comes with a limited edition Barbie unboxing experience that includes a Barbie bottle and Barbie stickers. I love. We've worked out a special deal with Hiya Health for their best-selling children's vitamin. You guys get 50% off your first order. So to claim this deal, you must go to hiyahealth.com/thatsoundsfun. Go to hiyahealth.com/thatsoundsfun and get your kids the full body nourishment that they need to grow into healthy adults. Okay, now back to our conversation with Bob.
That sounds fun.
There must have been, I'm guessing, so correct me for sure, at some point to live with this much whimsy, to go to San Quentin, to go to other prisons, to build a habitat, to build a university, there has to be this, and open up your house the way you and Sweet Maria do, there just has to be this core belief that you are doing what God's made you do. Like you're like right in the middle of it to some degree. Have you always felt that, or was there a maturation into that? Like, how do we all get there?
Yeah, I think there's a point where we all figure out who we're not. And it instead
That's
of figuring
good.
who you are, to just rule out all the things you're not. I had a guitar, a Stratocaster, and I could play a couple chords, but I figured out I'm not a rock and roller.
Right.
I'm not that good in the whole lifestyle. Like, that wasn't me. I figured that out in early stage of college. And then I figured out I'm actually not a lawyer, even though I'd done it for a quarter of a century. And for most people that don't know me, if they just met me and they heard I was their lawyer, they'd want to settle the case, be like, settle. So, but this whole idea, I realized I'm not the sum of my capabilities, and I'm not my dad. And some people need to know you're not your mom. Like, and you're not your biggest failure, and you're not your biggest success, but to just say we're this compilation of things, that we have some giftedness, and I'm trying to not be limited by my capabilities. So I'm capable of being a lawyer, but that doesn't feel lasting to me. It's a noble profession if you want it to be, but that doesn't, that wasn't, it didn't have the tail end that I was looking for, something that would be lasting. In the scriptures, it's called the aroma of Christ, like something where you smell the cookies in the oven. Yeah. And I didn't want to be like the guy walking in, engaging all this controversy every day. And so as a rule, as an Enneagram 7, what do? Flee controversy.
Yeah, that's it.
Like,
that's right.
Like conflict, like no thanks. So to understand what's going on within you, so we're not copping out on the important lessons and the things we need to lean into, and yet we know our wiring harness, and we say, I'm not just going to let the marketplace tell me who I am, because otherwise we'll lose who God has created, because he didn't create a lawyer, he created a Bob. He didn't create Annie with all of your capabilities. He created this really neat woman, very complex in some ways and very simple in other ways, to just like the people that get you the best, you're simple to them. Yeah. And you're very complex to somebody who doesn't know you, because they're thinking of all the caricatures of you and I. And so maybe what we can do is let down the drawbridge, right? Because we're not trying to build a castle, we're trying to build a kingdom. And we let down the drawbridge and let people in. But we say, like, only safe people get to come in here. Yeah. To really on the inside walls. I'm going to let this down for safe people who don't have an agenda, people that aren't trying to manipulate you, people who aren't trying to do this. And I don't assume people are trying to manipulate me. However, we want to be heads up to say, hey, I wonder if there's like a thing attached to that. You can usually tell after a little bit. Yeah. And it's not being guarded, it's being wise.
Well, I mean, you put your phone number in the back of every book you write, including, don't you know, as soon as I got Catching Whimsy, I flipped to the back. I was like, well, here he goes again. Bob out here just
You
dropping
have
his
to.
digits. And I think that's a beautiful thing you offer to people is like, just call me. If you want to talk, just call me. Does your bridge dropping and is your meter like really fine tuned right now because you're getting phone calls constantly from people you don't know?
Oh, I am. And I get some really beautiful ones. People that they're reading one of the books, a loved one's in hospice, and they're sharing some of their last moments together. And they get to the end to say, let's call this guy, see if it's for real. Or a couple that was dating and they were reading Love Does or some book like while they were dating. And now they're about to have the first viewing of each other. And they say, we want Bob in on this. It just feels like one of those
so cute.
take off your sandals, like holy ground kind of moments. But then there's crazy people that call too, as loony as you and I.
Yeah.
There was a woman that called not long ago and I said, hello, it's Bob here. And she said, the devil's in my bathroom.
Bob.
I had junior high school boys. I know exactly how you feel. But I just asked her, who's your best friend? And she said there was a woman named Mary. I said, go get Mary. You don't want to face this alone. And so I got a phone call about 2 hours later, maybe. And she called up and she said, devil's gone. Wow. I don't need to know all the intermediate parts. Yeah. I don't need to know if that was real or perceived. I just know that my piece of that was to be available. And so what if we just say for you and I, we've decided I'd be really interested in your availability index with so many people that are interested in connecting with you. I know I can pick the channel. Like this is the channel. Here's my cell phone number. So just give me a call. If I'm not talking to you on a podcast, then I'll answer the phone. And I have time for like short calls. I don't have time for long calls. But to say, if they have something longer to say, I don't want to be brief, but I don't have as much time as I wish I had. Here's my email, bob@bobgoff.com. See what I did there? So what I want us to do is come up with ways that people can access us in a way that fits. It's honoring to them. It's honoring to the people we love. So how do you navigate that, Annie?
Yeah, I mean, I not as well as you. I've been in the car with you before where you've taken a call and had such like a ballet level dance of let me hear you, but I also am in the car with friends. And so, you know, for me, the thing I like to remind myself is there will come a day, probably sooner than I wish, where no one will want to come up and speak to me in public. And I will wish that I had taken a few more minutes with the ones who did when they did. Yeah.
Isn't that neat when somebody says, hey, Annie, you spent this time with me. I'm sure you won't remember. And then you actually do remember.
Yeah.
And there's something really beautiful. I remember we were by that lake and they'll be like, wow, you remember. Like that idea, like people like 8,620 times the word remember in the scriptures. Like just to remember. Somebody was talking about like be not afraid 365. I'm like, I will up your be not afraid with remember. 8,620 times.
Yes.
What I want us to do is to just remember, and we can't remember it if we didn't show up for it. And so I want to just continue. That's why I think with our writing, don't you like that idea of living a noteworthy life? Like take notes. Like, and it's not noteworthy so other people think swell things about you, but you're so engaged in what's going on around you and inside of you, your adventure in New York, your like what the memories, the friendships, who you've learned from, those things. Like I want us, that idea of dwelling in Christ, I think is this idea of remembering and to say, why does that matter? And I think that's why your books are so good, because you connect to people together. That's why people listen to your podcast. Because you talk about something and it's like a tap on a shoulder from somebody really safe to say, remember that in your life. Remember when love wasn't as complicated as we make love sometimes. Like, I think that's what we can do for each other.
That's one of the real reasons when your book came across our desk and I was like, oh yes, let's please get Bob, because as we go into a new year, as we go into inauguration, as we go into a year that we don't know what to predict, how do we embrace whimsy if the world feels hard, Bob?
Yeah. What if we're steady? That we say that we're going to be a safe spot. in the middle of a really loud room, we're not going to try to raise our voice above everybody else's.
Yeah.
This idea of like making a defense for the hope within you, that's all fine, but do it with kindness and respect.
Yeah.
So what if we could be a safe place where people could come and deal with their stuff as you're dealing with authenticity with your own things, but each one of us in our own way. I just live a life worthy of the calling you've received. And my call is not to be the guy calling balls and strikes. I'm not going to be the one raising the volume or the temperature in the room. I just want to be a safe place. I care a lot more about the person who's feeling just like adrift than for the person that thinks they have it all figured out. And I'm not critical of either, but I want to be available because I saw a guy get in the water with me. So I want to get in the water with them and not teach him how to swim. I just want to float with him. If I'm nothing else, I'm buoyant.
Yeah.
So
I'll float with you.
I can float with you, brother. I can't swim with you, but I can just bob.
That's
like
so good.
Hence the name.
I can float with. Oh my gosh, it's the name. Oh my gosh.
I'm going to have to write that down because
please
one
do.
of the things that we can do is be there for each other. And then to this idea of living a noteworthy life, when things come across that either tickle your funny bone or your compassion bone or your whatever bone you have, like to just say that connects with something within me. And I want to be available. If I showed up at your house for dinner, I promise you, Annie, I would not come empty-handed. I would have something to just say thank you. I would not just arrive there.
Yeah.
And so what if we honor the relationships we have by arriving with a thought, arriving with an insight, not to be a teacher, because we arrive as students, not as professors. And the people that are professors or take on the role of professors are actually students. They just don't realize that they need to like actually kind of go. The people that are sometimes the loudest at professing something probably would benefit by taking a class or two in some of the things they're talking about.
Yeah.
And so we don't say that with a bony finger pointed in anybody's direction, but just like lots of wisdom and insight about how is that going to change me? How am I going to show up? Rather than figuring out how somebody else needs to sort some stuff out, to say, that's ricocheting off me because I'm over-indexing whatever it is. And the reason is because I've got kind of a raw edge there, and that is connected to some unresolved stuff. And so let's just go back to the scene of the crime, the little chalk outline of little Annie or little Bobby Goff, and see what happened. And then we don't need to camp out there, but let's just see what happened and then roll it forward and say, oh, and so what a 65-year-old, that guy, like little freckled Bobby Goff, who's now 65, how does he show up? And who can he tell to take a seat? You've officiated some weddings, and I have, and I've got one coming up in a couple days in Dallas. And so Maria has already appended this little 3x5 card to the inside of my Bible, and it doesn't have some big verse or the bride or groom's name on it. It says, "Tell them to sit down," because there's that moment in every wedding when they come down and you say, let's pray, and then there's a moment when you tell them to sit down, and if you miss that off ramp, it's a long way before the next off ramp. Have you been to one of those weddings?
Yes.
Or just came like, no, you missed the off ramp. And so maybe in keeping with that, there might be some people in your life that are blocking your view of the next steps forward, and you need to tell them with kindness to take a seat.
Wow.
And there's something beautiful and redemptive and beautiful, like that idea of redemption didn't mean anything to me in faith communities until I remembered being 7 or 8 years old, and there'd be empty Coca-Cola bottles, and it would said redeemable, and it said 5 cents. And so I gathered together all the empties and I bring them to the grocery store, and it meant they were worth something. And now all of a sudden that springs to life, this idea of redemption. It doesn't sound like a big religious word. It just means like your pain, your hurt, your worries, we're all worth something. Yeah. And I think that idea, that's probably why you and I write books, because we want people to know it's worth something.
It's worth something. That's right.
That sounds fun.
Hey, friends, just interrupting this conversation one more time to tell you about one of our incredible partners, Our Place. Okay, did you know? This is not your favorite Christmas stat. Did you know that most cookware and appliances are made with forever chemicals? No, thank you. But Our Place is a mission-driven and female-founded brand that makes beautiful kitchen products that are healthy and sustainable. Their products are made without PFAS and Teflon. Most cookware brands continue to use these chemicals due to their low cost. Leading the change, Our Place has always been PFAS-free and offers the most durable, toxin-free ceramic coatings, ensuring a healthy, safe cooking experience. And y'all, they're just so cute too. I need you to go look up all the fun colors they have. In addition to cookware, forever chemicals are also frequently used in appliances, especially air fryers, pressure cookers, crock pots, and even the rim of blenders. That's why Our Place came out with non-toxic appliances too that are changing the game. Go to FromOurPlace.com. Enter the code that's just for our friends, TSF, at checkout, and you'll get 10% off site-wide. That's FromOurPlace.com, and the code is TSF. And remember, Our Place offers a 100-day trial with free shipping and returns. And I have another incredible partner to tell you about, Ritual. I love Ritual's Essential for Women 18 Plus multivitamin. I also love knowing that they've done their work to research how it's actually impacting women for the better. We've talked about this before, but this is wild to me. Women were excluded from clinical research policy by federal law until 1993, until I was a teenager. I just think that is crazy. But when Ritual conducted a university-led human clinical trial for their multivitamin to assess how effective it is, the results showed it increased vitamin D levels by 43%, omega-3 DHA levels by 41%, and all of that in just 12 weeks. I love that. Their Essential for Women 18 Plus multivitamin also has high-quality, traceable key ingredients and clean, bioavailable forms. So you know you're getting exactly what's listed on the bottle. Use take 2 capsules a day, which have 9 key nutrients, and the capsules feature a delayed release, which means it dissolves later. It is easier on that empty stomach, and it has this great minty essence too. You know that's my favorite part. Plus, Ritual multivitamins are vegan, non-GMO, gluten and major allergen free, and they're a female-founded B Corp, meaning they are holding themselves accountable to not just their company's financial health, but also the health of people and our planet. No more shady business. Ritual Essential for Women 18 Plus is a multivitamin you can actually trust. My friends, get 25% off their first month at ritual.com/thatsoundsfun. So start Ritual or add Essential for Women 18 Plus to your subscription today. That's ritual.com/thatsoundsfun for 25% off. And now back to finish up our conversation with Bob.
That sounds fun.
Thing happened with a friend here in New York, and I was telling my college best friend. So we lived together 23 years ago, right? And she said, real kindly back on, we were Marco Poloing, so we were video, and she said, if it's okay with you, can I tell you how this reminds me of something from when you were in your 20s? And so she did that callback of like, hey, this is how little Annie responded. And I think you need to remember, I think I need to remind you what I saw happen, because there's a version of that still happening and we need to figure out why.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, what a gift.
So good. Yeah, I think that idea of where they stacked rocks in the Old Testament, it wasn't because they didn't have paper.
Yeah.
They wanted people to remember. Like when you
Yes.
see the stocks of rocks, God showed up. What if outside your apartment, or if you're listening, you have a house, just start stacking rocks in front? Remember, 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 remember.
Yeah.
And your kids will be like adults like mine are now. They'll be a big pile of rocks. They'll be like, what's going on? Is this a project? I'm like, yeah, I'm the project.
Yeah,
we
I
are
am.
not remodels. We are tear downs. So, but there's something beautiful and redemptive about that.
Yeah.
And I think if we can do those things that we do, your podcast, the books you write, the conversations we have, the notes that we take today, and then just 12. I haven't had a quiet time in 30 years. Mine are super loud.
Yeah.
Like I just take everything I remember from the day before, and I do that idea, like just check it against the things that I believe the most, right? That idea, the letters, the books that are written, if scripture guides your steps, like just check it against the things that you trust the most.
Yeah.
And just that idea of just say, I'm just going to write down the things that I think are really true. Not just the things that sound right, because lots of things sound right.
Yeah.
But is it really true? And does it pass that test? If somebody gives you advice and it rhymes, run.
Right. That ain't it. The Bible does not rhyme. Yeah, that ain't it.
So just remember, if it rhymes, run.
So I'm thinking about our friends who whimsy is a part of their life, or like even just like generosity is kind of who they are. They kind of live like this, and they've gotten burned where someone's taken advantage of them. I had a pastor friend say to me a couple of weeks ago, "You aren't really generous until you've been taken advantage of, and then you've really given beyond what you actually wanted to give is when you get taken advantage of." I am sure with how generous you and Sweet Maria are to people coming to your homes and using your things and going on trips with you. What do you do for our friends listening who are going, hey, I would have done that 5 years ago, but I got really burned. I'd have done that, but now we don't have enough money because I gave money away and it didn't return to us from God or anybody else. So what do you do? What do you say to the people who feel like they're on the other side of getting to live like this and life has hurt too much to really do that again?
Yeah, I think you go back to those little chalk outlines where the scene of the crime was, like go and revisit it. And understand for a couple of things, like did you make a rule at that point, that at your deepest moment of hurt, did you make a rule for yourself? Like think of a high school sweetheart or somebody last week, whatever, somebody that wounded you. And then you made a rule to say, I'll never love again. Maybe that's kind of that junior high school, like you make a rule. And then just say, is that rule true? Like, is it true? Was it true then? Does it need to still be true? And then to say the scaffolding that rule gave for your fragile little heart at the time, is that rule actually imprisoning you now? So, some of the rules I made when I was really young, there's just the person that just, I'm not wanted and all that. And so then the rule I made is I'm not going deep with anybody. Why? Because the belief was that I'm not wanted. And so if I really got real with you, Annie, and it was to really disclose my fears and concerns and all that, then if you rejected me, which my rule says you will, then it would hurt too much. So now I'm like, I can't get a date with anybody because nobody wants to go with a happy guy that's just an inch deep. They'll have them over, but they don't want to really go deep with them. And I had to revisit the rule. That could I be vulnerable? Could I go, is there more depth there that I'm willing to share? And I'm willing to share being wounded again for the possibility that I might be known. And so you just start redoing the math. So I would say to somebody listening, if you got your ears handed back to you in a relationship or something else, to say, did you make a rule? And it would be fair to have made one to create some scaffolding around that hurt. But then to say, is that rule still true? Is it helpful? And can I rewrite it? There's a Young Life camp next to this place we have in Canada.
Yeah.
And they've got a big boat that pulls in with 400 high school kids every week. And their boat that takes the luggage from the big boat to where the camp is broke. And so I've got a landing craft. So every week I would catch the luggage and pilot on my boat and bring it in. I just delighted doing it. What would be a reasonable amount of pounds for a 15-year-old girl to bring in her luggage for 5 days and 4 nights at camp? Well, no, really, what would be 30 pounds?
Yeah, you would think 30 to 40, but.
Yeah, 30, 40, something like that. Well, I swear there was a duffel bag. There must have been a dead guy in there because we weighed 175 pounds. I caught it in my shoulder and I just knew, when you hear that pop or that whatever.
Yes.
And it is 16 weeks later, Annie, and I am still favoring that. I made a rule early on because it hurt so much that I just put my right hand in my pocket and I didn't pick things up with my right hand. I shaked hands with people with my left hand. I just favored that. And then what happened is that it atrophied because I didn't use it anymore because it was hurt. And so it atrophied. And you see where I'm going with that. We make this rule, and then all the best parts of us, because I'm right-handed, atrophy. And then all of a sudden we're not good at what we should be really good at. Our strongest point becomes our weakest point. And so I just want to say, let's go back, figure out what was in the duffel bag, figure out where it hurt, figure out what you're going to do next. But don't make a rule saying, I'm never using that muscle again. I'm never using my love muscle again. I'm never using my authenticity muscle. And I get it. Let's take down the scaffolding and just say, are there some safe people I can put in my house? I want to take baby steps towards this. I didn't start using my right arm by lifting up 500-pound things.
Right,
I couldn't do that
right.
with both arms and a friend. But I started using it a little bit. And so just that next courageous step, they saw their courage and they knew they'd been with Jesus. And so to identify the hurt, say that really stung in that relationship, but I'm not going to make a rule that says I'm not doing relationships again. Yeah, that's courageous work. And I think find some safe people, and even better, be the safe person.
Yeah,
be the person. Know how to keep a secret. I'm a lawyer. I keep secrets for a living.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, you got to finish with this. Did you get giraffes? What is the update of the habitat in northern Uganda?
Well, we didn't want just one. We have enough habitat for 6 giraffes. And you need to have, evidently, they do like kind of like the home study first. So if you can keep a secret, as we're on this like massive podcast, we planted 10,000 acacia trees.
Oh my gosh.
So when they do the home study, they'll be like, wow, who knew? There's like all this acacia trees.
Like, did you plant grown acacia trees, not like the seeds?
No, we're planting them. They'll do the home study a little bit. So they'll be like, I don't know, man, they must just grow here. This is crazy. It's a strategic whimsy. I don't want to just say, I want a giraffe. I want to say, find the trees, plant the trees, water the trees, make the habitat, and then have magnificent, and don't try to control it, try to influence it. I don't mean like a 20-year-old influencer with Ugg boots on and Lululemons. I just want to say, can we do this? Can we say we're going to try to influence the outcomes with beauty and positivity and effort and all that? Instead of just say, well, I'm just trusting God, be like, trust God, but then ask the president.
That's right. But ask the president. That's exactly right.
Find the guy who owns the giraffes and say, I just need 6.
Yeah. So you're going to get 6 in the next.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
And we're building a university to go next to it, and then we'll just figure it out as we have to go. I'd say the loop, San Quentin, and then off to Uganda.
Okay.
We want to monopolize your time.
I will
Travel
go with you in a
with
heartbeat.
people. Yeah, people that are safe, people whose heart beats like you. Did you know out at the Oaks, we've got all these horses, and somebody in Tennessee gave me a Tennessee trotter or two, and then there's a thoroughbred and a trail horse. And if you turn them all out into the field, eventually all their hearts start beating together. Is that crazy? Did you know that?
I did not
Because
know
they're
that.
animals of prey. And if one horse gets startled, their heart starts going off, they all sense it.
All do.
And so, like, I want our hearts, that idea, John 17, that we're one, but oneness doesn't mean sameness. So we could be, every family's got a nutty uncle or aunt in it, and maybe that's a role that you and I can play in beautiful ways, winsome ways in people's lives. But beneath that, they need to know, for you and I and the other people, there's usually a ton of strategy. Like, there's a reason why we're doing what we're doing. And if you don't know what that is, what a great time to just say, hey, why am I doing what I'm doing? Take away everything that you're known for, and whatever's left is who you are. So take away Bob the trial lawyer, whoever's left is who I am. Then take away Bob the balloon guy. Like, whatever's left is whoever I am. Take away Annie and all your following and podcasts and all that. And whoever we are, that isn't a lonely place. That's a really like honest place to be. Strip this thing down to the chassis and to say, what is it? Now we got a ball game. Because we go like, that's my favorite hand gesture. I don't know what it means in sign language. It's just rubbing your hands in anticipation. Feel like I can feel the warmth. I can feel like mischief is around the corner.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for making time for us. It always means so much to me.
I'm so grateful. It's so good to see you. Thanks for sharing boatloads of love to people. Annie, you just like that idea as you're known at the city gates, like this will be your legacy, that you're a really safe person, that you bring a lot of joy, but underneath that, anybody who's been around you for a minute and a half knows that there's a depth to that. And so maybe for somebody listening to say, can you let somebody who's safe just know a little bit more about who you are? What does it feel like to be you?
Beautiful. Thank you, my friend. You guys, he's the best. We always know it. We always think it. We always believe it. It is true. Bob is the best. You need to grab your copy of Catching Whimsy. This is such a great devotional to kick off January with, to gift this Christmas. And make sure you're following Bob on social media and tell him thank you so much for being on the show. If you enjoyed this episode, all the links to Bob's previous episodes are in the show notes below. Keep listening, keep learning. There is so much to glean from Bob's wisdom whenever you get to hear it. If you got any questions from this episode, drop them in the Q&A box on your Spotify app if you're a Spotify listener like me, or send them to us on Instagram at That Sounds Fun Podcast. We will try to answer them there. If you need anything else from me, you know I'm embarrassingly easy to find. Annie F. Downs on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the places you may need me. That is how you can find me. And I think that's it for me today, friends. Go out or stay home and do something that sounds fun to you, and I'll do the same. Man, today what sounds fun to me is single purposely going to Dollywood together this weekend. I cannot wait, y'all. I cannot wait. So if you're at Dollywood this Saturday, look for us. We're all going to be there too. Y'all have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday. A all-time favorite episode returns that y'all missed greatly last year. So we brought it back. We're reviewing our favorite Christmas movies with my friends, Jen and Jamie. We'll see y'all then.
That sounds fun.
That sounds fun.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Check 1, 2 on the microphone. Annie F. Downs in your car to your home. Every week it's something new. A deep talk or an interview. She'll make you laugh, she'll make you cry. When it's dark out, she's a light. When you're down, get you feeling right. Oh man, that sounds fun.
That sounds fun.
That sounds fun.
Oh.